Joining us now, former MSNBC host Chris Matthews. Chris, you have worked on Capitol Hill. You have covered Capitol Hill for a long time. What do you make of how this all shook out to begin with, and finally with the choice they landed on?
Well, it was basically a war of attrition, and they all gave in. I mean, certainly the moderates gave in. They said they need a speaker, and they got a speaker now. But being a speaker takes more than 217 or 218 votes. You have to be willing to govern. You're the third in line of the presidency. You have to help run the United States government. You control the House of Representatives, which writes all the tax law, the trade bill. It's a very important job in the government. Now, what's this guy, Mike Johnson, going to do when he has to choose to keeping the government running, just running November 17th, and playing ball with the MAGA crowd, which he's a member of, a leader of, a guy who says the election really was stolen from them? I mean, how's he going to do both? And I think we don't know yet. He's charming. He's not like, Joe Pesci there. What's a Jordan guy? He's dangerous. He was always a not very likable guy. He's more of a Steve Colbert type, if you will. People like the guy. That should help. It certainly helped with Tip O'Neill all those 10 years he was leader. I think if they like him, they might give him some leash, a little more direction than they gave McCarthy. They saw McCarthy as a fraud. McCarthy was not a MAGA guy. He pretended to be one, and they could see right through him. And Matt Gaetz, of all people, called him out.
Yeah.
So, Chris, you worked for Tip O'Neill for quite some period of time. And the way Tip was the Speaker of the House, he was the Speaker of the House.
Right.
So what does this new Speaker of the House from Louisiana, basically a backbencher, a MAGA backbencher, does he know what he doesn't know?
Mike, you were palate tips, and you know a lot of this stuff. The fact of the matter is that I remember Robert Dornan, the guy from California.
Yeah, sure.
He once said if a guy from Mars, a person from Mars, walked into the House chamber and looked around the room, he could pick out the speaker. It was Tip O'Neill. He was clearly the leader of the House. He intimidated people. He certainly intimidated me for 6 years when I was his AA. I could feel it, and you know that too. And he could make people love him. People could love the guy, and he had no enemies. Now, that's a good start for Mike Johnson. If you have no enemies, and that's clearly how he got people like Fitzpatrick and people like that, the moderates, they don't dislike the guy. He's young. He hasn't made any enemies. But in the end, November 17th, I keep going back to that. Are you for keeping the United States government running or not? And if you're not, you're one of the Matt Gaetz people. Matt Gaetz was on Ari Melber last night. I mean, Matt Gaetz is celebrating out there. He's a winner. He got rid of this guy, all those guys. Trump got rid of everybody. He got rid of Emers. All these guys are gone because they weren't Trumpies. This guy's a Trumpy.
So let's talk about the Trump factor, because last time I checked, there was a lot of losing connected to Donald Trump. Right. And he's got all these legal problems on top of it all. I don't understand sort of what is it when you hurt yourself? I mean, this is what the Republicans are hurting themselves.
Yeah. Well, this is like
aren't they?
Matt, it's almost like he's calling these shots from San Quentin. I mean, he's going after trial after trial, and he's calling in from the big pen what to do. Is he going to tell Mike Johnson what to do on the debt ceiling on November 17th? Is he going to call? Do they make the call? I got to go. It's hilarious what he's doing.
Rikers? I mean, seriously.
I was going to say Rikers too. You're a New Yorker now. I got to tell you, I was going to say Rikers. He's calling in from his basically, he's in a defendant's chair right now in all these cases, and yet he still has the power to make this guy do what he wants. This guy's third in line to the presidency. He was just elected to that. That's a real office, a real part of the United States government.
Yeah.
So, and he asked the question: is he going to do something on? Look how McCarthy did it. He said, okay, I'll schmooze with you guys on this so-called impeachment of Joe Biden, but I don't really want it. I don't really believe it. You guys know I don't really believe there's anything there. They can't find anything but smoke. And, but I'm going to take some Democrat guys on to try to pass the spending bill. That was the end of it. The minute he brought Democrats in. So what happens when Mike Johnson says, I need a few Democratic votes to get to 218 on that? What happens then? What does Matt Gaetz and the rest of the zealots do? I think they're going to go on the attack again, but they might not. They might give him a little leash until Christmas, till Christmas at least.
Right.
So, Chris, in terms of the big one, the big question, what happens when this new speaker meets the President of the United States, who you've known for quite some time, you know his personality? What happens?
Well, Joe Biden is will want to like the guy. He'll want to find something, maybe golf or something they have in common. That's an old thing. And, you know, Mike, the old days, you find somebody, you have something in common with kids. It's usually kids. You want to talk about your children. That's one way to become friends with another guy. How they doing? Well, he'll want to talk about Hunter Biden, of course, Mike Johnson. But the fact of the matter is that normally about getting away with any stranger is kids. And I think he'll try that. He'll try sports. But Joe Biden will try to make friends with the guy. Let's face it. They got to go through a lot of grueling nights when they have debt ceilings and continuing resolutions and all kinds of CRs to deal with. These are real things in running the U.S. government. I remember Tip, my boss, I called him Mr. Speaker. The guy had pressure on him all the time from Ronald Reagan, from the Southern guys, all the Southern guys that were still in the Democratic Party who were conservatives in many ways. He had the new breed guys that came in with Watergate who wanted change all the time, Dick Gephardt, all kinds of people, the new guys. And he always felt the pressure, but he always overcame it through different tactics. Backroom stuff sometimes public, sometimes games he played in terms of working them. But it was always a question of keeping yourself the boss, because the speaker only has the power to set the agenda, which is important. He can tell what to talk about. But he also has the power to persuade people and make people like him and do favors for people. And this guy's going to have to be good at this. Young guy here, this young guy, I'm looking at him right now. This guy's the speaker. He's holding Jefferson's manual right now. I just put it down. Yeah. He's got to get the rules, and he's got to learn how to make people like him and keep liking him through a grueling time with MAGA himself, Trump out there giving the orders from wherever. It's an interesting new situation for this young guy. I do wish him well. I hope he help the government work. I mean, we got to believe in that.
You got to hope, and I think everybody has to wait to see. Hopefully, some people rise to the occasion. We've seen some people not do that in recent past, so maybe we're a little triggered. When it comes to Joe Biden, just one thing, Chris. I mean, I know this was sort of off the cuff, but he loves talking about Hunter. He loves his son. He also talks about the mistakes his son has made. He loves his grandchildren. No family is immune to challenge, and Joe Biden's the first to talk about that straight up, right, to anybody who cares, anybody who has humanity. Chris Matthews, thank you very much.
Appreciate
it. Coming up.